Welcome to the Stardesk SLS 3D printing guide. This video is just a quick highlight of the PDF that can be found with the other STL files in that Google Drive folder. I'll just take you through it, but if you just read through the PDF, that will be enough as well. But I'll quick go over some of the important parts here. Number one, we use PLA or PETG for all the parts, just because those are the most food safe and they've been working very well. The STL file units are all millimeters, so make sure you don't import as any other units. And then I recommend just sticking with your 3D printer's default layer height and infill settings for whatever slicer you're using. I use 0.2 millimeter layer height and 15% infill, so anything near that should do just fine. And then this is very important, but do not use any supports. Everything was designed to be printed with no supports because I personally strongly dislike supports. So yeah, you'll print them without supports and you'll get a clean finished part. And then because of this, part orientation is very important. So your slicer should open up each STL in the correct orientation, meaning you won't need to rotate it. The correct downside will be facing down. But you should double check this with at least a few of your parts, if not all of them, by looking at the images in the rest of this PDF. And I'll flip to those right now. So you'll see I list some of the parts here. And actually, while I've got this open, I'll point out that the solid rocket boosters and the Orion upper stage, those should be printed together, because the Orion upper stage has this thin rod right here, and unless that's printed with a cooling tower or with another part like the solid rocket boosters, it'll get all messed up. So either print it with the solid rocket boosters or use a cooling tower. And then another quick note while I have this page open, a few of the parts you need to print multiples of. So the tail service mast umbilical right here, these are just two small white parts, so you'll want to print two of those. As well as down here, the core stage umbilical arm, you'll want to print two of those. And then also the middle tower section, you'll want two of those. And then I'm going to go to the next page. There's a bunch of little parts here, the SRB lines, which are black, and the SRB rings, also black. You'll want at least 20 of those lines and at least 12 of those rings. You can print a few extras too if you'd like to, in case you lose some or break some. But yeah, let's go back to that first page. So yeah, like I was saying, double check that each part opens up in your slicer facing this way. So these are all the correct orientation here in these images. A few of the parts are pretty tall and don't have a huge area that contacts the build platform. Like the orange core stage is one of those. So a raft may be helpful if you have some trouble getting that to stick. And then I highly recommend using a slow first layer speed. I do this with all my prints, but especially for the small parts, like all the umbilical arms. For those, I actually go all the way down to 5 millimeters a second, just for that first layer. And everything else, I actually use a 10 millimeter per second first layer speed. I've just found this to be a much better first layer option. A few other notes. I already mentioned printing the upper stage and solid rocket boosters together. Your kit will also come with a couple parts already 3D printed. So the little clear button and the red NASA worm logo. The reason I include those is because you need to print those out of clear and translucent red filament, which most people probably don't have. So I just go ahead and include those to make it easier. But I do give you access to the files in case you did want to print them yourself. And then, yeah, I already mentioned that you need a few of the parts. And finally, of course, you can use whatever colors you'd like. I think a funky looking SLS would be cool in some strange colors, but to make it look realistic, you'll need a dark and light gray, white, orange, and black. And yeah, that's all for the 3D print guide. And of course, after you've got all those printed, you can go on to the assembly video.